So in the East, I'm going to take Columbus and Islanders. I think the Stars move on. Sharks moving on to the conference final in my book. Hey, I got one right. Okay, I didn't get shut out. 3 for 8 in the first round, 1 for 4 in the second. The trend line is going down, folks. I'm getting progressively worse here. But there's incentive for you to watch to see who I pick, especially if you're a betting person, because you'll know whoever I pick, you bet for the other team. It's basically guaranteed money now. Second round, we had 2 series go 7 games, Blues and Stars, and then the Sharks and Avs. And then you had 1 series go 6 games, the Bruins and the Blue Jackets. But let's talk about the bunch of jerks out east, the Carolina Hurricanes sweeping the New York Islanders, who swept the Lightning in the first round. Who saw that coming? Like either of those two things, right? That was crazy. Now, that was probably the least playoff feeling series of the second round. I mean, a 4-game sweep will feel like that, but it wasn't a very hard-nosed series. It wasn't like the Bruins Blue Jackets series. That one was like, hard, grindy, playoff-type hockey. The Canes and Isles, that series was just kind of like regular season hockey, but with, more importance. Canes didn't necessarily control play in that series. Islanders had a lot of good play, but they just couldn't find ways to score, couldn't find ways to get the job done. And Carolina, they took advantage of their opportunities. They didn't have a lot of them at times, but they scored enough to win 4 games in a row, and that'll do it. That'll win you a series. Canes' storybook season continues. Their bandwagon grows fuller by the minute. I think they're a pretty popular team heading into the conference finals. And they're going to be very popular because of who they're playing in the Eastern Conference Final. The Boston Bruins advancing over the Columbus Blue Jackets in 6 games. Now, that was a very hard-nosed, grinded-out series. Very easily could have gone 7 games, but the Boston Bruins able to end it 1 game early and move on to the Eastern Conference Final. Now, the Blue Jackets, I thought, kind of went away from their game the latter half of that series, which kind of gave Boston a little bit of the edge. But I think the main story here is not the McAvoy hit. It's something that you're not going to hear often. Tuukka Rask, overall in the series, outplayed Bobrovsky. He did. Bobrovsky had his games, and he was great at times, but overall, Tuukka Rask stole the show. You're not going to hear that very often. But yeah, what a series from him. Now, a lot of people are going to talk about the McAvoy hit, like I mentioned, and that's not the reason why Columbus lost Game 6. They couldn't score to begin with. That's never going to help. Once again, Tuukka Rask was playing great. But McAvoy suspended, as he should have been, for 1 game. He did get a minor penalty. I thought it could have been a major, but minor. It was a penalty. But suspended 1 game. He'll be out for the first game of the Eastern Conference Final. Like I said, not the reason Columbus lost. Not the reason they didn't force a Game 7. Boston just outplayed them. Tuukka Rask outplayed them. And they're moving on to face Carolina. Side note, it's going to be a very interesting summer for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They went all in at the trade deadline, if you remember. They got McQuaid, Dzingel, and Duchesne to try and take advantage of this last year that they had Bobrovsky and Panarin on contracts. Those 2 are most likely gone this summer. They almost missed the playoffs, but they end up making it to the second round before bowing out to the Bruins. All of those guys they acquired, all are going to be free agents this summer. So it's going to be interesting to see which ones they're able to keep, if any, and what happens kind of to this franchise moving forward. Let me know down in the comments if you think, even though they exited in the second round, let me know if you think that was worth it for them going all in at the trade deadline. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Moving on to the West, we got the Stars and the Blues. A very, very evenly matched series. So even, in fact, that it goes all the way to a double overtime in Game 7, where this game could have gone either way. This series could have gone either way. Ben Bishop putting on an insane performance, 53, 54 saves, something like that, just carrying the team on his back in that Game 7. And it just felt like one of those games where the Blues are just peppering him, but just can't find the back of the net. And you just figure that the Stars are just going to find a way to score, and it's just going to bum everyone out because at least all the St. Louis fans out, because you feel like you outplayed the team. We just can't get the result, and in a Game 7, that's just, it's scary. But Pat Maroon, St. Louis Blues, find a way to get the job done in the double overtime, score the goal. They're moving on to the Western Conference Final after being 31st in the league back in January. Just an incredible run they've been on. Take note, teams, this is how you peak at the right time. You don't have to be peaking in October, November, December. You just got to be peaking going into the playoffs, and look where you can go, all the way to the Western Conference Final, at least. The other Western Conference matchup in this second round also went 7 games. Avalanche and Sharks. And, well, could have gone either way. Once again, Western Conference matchups in the second round were absolutely fantastic. Avalanche just didn't get the breaks. The Sharks, I hate to say this because they're taking advantage of their breaks, but man, they are getting breaks in these playoffs. Like, things are going their way. And it has to. If you're going to win the cup, things have to bounce your way. Calls have to be made your way, and you got to take advantage of it. Game 7, first round, Pavelski gets knocked out. Major, they score a bunch of goals, end up winning, and it looked like they had no chance of winning that game. They find a way to do that. They advance to the second round. Then second round, Game 7, well, Nathan MacKinnon gets knocked out for the first 10 minutes of this game. Sharks score 2 goals, and then looks like the Avs tie it up, but nope, called back on offside. Sharks just keep getting breaks, and Avs still almost find a way to tie this game and go into overtime. Avs almost pull this out. Sharks are playing with fire right now in the playoffs. But it's working so far. They're taking advantage of it, and in the end, they're moving on to the Western Conference Final, and they will be playing the St. Louis Blues for a chance to represent the West in the Stanley Cup Final. So let's look at these conference final matchups. Let's look at the Western Conference first. Let's stay in the West. St. Louis Blues, San Jose Sharks. St. Louis Blues just peaking at the right time. That's what you got to do, right? Binnington, it's been absolutely fantastic since January. He's not being tested all that much, but he's making the saves when he has to, and that's all you really can ask. And then you got the Sharks, who are emotionally flying high after their 2 7-game emotional series that they've played. A lot of things it's been a roller coaster for them. They've gotten a lot of breaks, and you just got to wonder, how many more breaks are they going to get? How much more luck are they going to get? Now, I'm not saying they're here because they're lucky. They're taking advantage of their opportunities. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not giving San Jose credit, because they're a great team. But they're getting a lot of bounces right now, and at some point you got to think it just goes back the other way. And for me, that's kind of what I'm seeing for this conference final. I think they're just not going to get enough breaks or bounces to go their way. I think this series very easily could go 7 games again. Can San Jose pull out another 7-game series? I don't think so. I think St. Louis Blues win this series. I think they go on to represent the West in the Stanley Cup Final. Over in the East, you got the bunch of jerks, the story of the year, the Carolina Hurricanes, facing the big bad Boston Bruins. Great storyline there. This is a tough series to predict. Carolina Hurricanes, Boston Bruins play 2 different styles of hockey. Bruins, more physical, more in your face, hard nosed. Carolina, they got pace, right? They like their flow, their creativity, and they can shut you down. They got great defense. I don't know. I honestly don't know who to pick here because, once again, it really depends on what types of games these two teams get into playing. If one of these teams gets sucked into playing the other team's type of game, they're going to have a bad time. I think Boston, obviously on paper, is the better team, but we've seen how that's worked these playoffs. You pretty much throw that out of the window. That's why they play these games on ice. Hurricanes, I'm on their bandwagon. I think a lot of people are. If you're not a Boston fan, you're probably on the Hurricanes bandwagon. Oh, man. It just feels like it's just the end of the road for them, though. I'm going to have to pick Boston. Yep. Boston going to represent the East. They're missing McAvoy game 1, and they may not win game 1. Hurricanes aren't going to... If the Hurricanes win this series, it's not going to be a sweep. Let's put it that way. This series, I'm thinking, goes 6 games. I think Boston wins in 6 games. Once again, Tuukka Rask playing out of his mind right now. He just seems to be in that zone. We haven't seen this out of him really at all. He's been good for a while, but he's had, the breakdowns or whatever that, that just come. But this is by far the best he's played in the playoffs of his career. And if he keeps this going, which I kind of think he will, Boston's going to be a really, really hard team to beat. So, I got Boston moving on to represent the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup Final. So those are my picks for the conference finals. You should pretty much know who you should pick or bet on. It should be pretty obvious if you've been paying attention. Let me know, though, who you pick and what you think of the second round results down in the comments section below. Love to read your guys' thoughts on that. If you enjoy my channel and my content and my personality, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate that as always. But most importantly, stay safe, make good decisions, and I'll see you next time.